I'm just going to double check and make sure that is the case. Hi, everyone. Yeah, Alex, just tipping your head down like
Hello.
right there.
Yeah.
Doing your thing, doing your thing. If you can hear me, I am Brian Francis, contributing editor to Gama Sutra, and I'm just making sure. Yep, we're all good. Okay, hi. We are totally a-okay. We are here today with no game, sadly, in our box. Our box got a box situation going on here. Oh, I see what's going on. All right, I'm in the corner technically, but I am a little hidden from view today. But I am here with Gama Sutra News editor Alex Boiro. Say hi, Alex.
Hi. Hi. Hello.
And above him is GDC speaker Tim Nixon. Tim, can you introduce yourself?
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Tim. I'm the creative director for a company called Runaway in Dunedin, New Zealand. Currently coming to you from Bogota, Colombia, as I'm sort of traveling the world this year while continuing to work with Runaway. We make mobile games inspired by the natural world. And this year I am speaking at GDC about the transition we made from being a third-party published developer onto being a fully independent self-publisher.
Right on. And can you sort of talk about how we obviously cannot do the full GDC talk here, but can you tell us about what that was like? Hang on, sorry, I am trying to get the screen here to capture, but it's not.
It's got to be perfect.
Yeah, sorry everyone, I'm still messing with this as we go. But
and I want to apologize for this in general, just this whole. Tim, though, you look fantastic.
Tim, you're great. Yeah, Tim, can you sort of tell us about why you began that journey? All right, so I'm just going to be an arm in the corner today, apparently, everyone. Sorry. Tim, if you could explain to us how you started off on this journey of going from being a published developer to a self-published one.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's worth pointing out for a start that we actually had a really fruitful and positive relationship with the mobile publisher DNA for 3 years. So we worked really closely with their team in San Francisco and produced 2 great games that were both really successful, Flutter and Splash. And we learned a hell of a lot from them in that process, and they remain really good friends. But we did get to a point where we were comfortable enough with the development side of things, and we're building a real appreciation for how important the publishing side of like your live operations and updates and events and things was to the health of our overall portfolio. And it was our sort of hypothesis that if we were to build a specialist team that was focused on providing your customer support, quality assurance, marketing, etc., specifically for our niche portfolio, and to have all those people in the same room as the developers, and for like us to be able to take this holistic approach to building and refining a portfolio of games, that would lead to even greater success for our products. And that's why we ultimately decided that was an investment and an expansion that we wanted to make, and worked with DNA and our owners and executives, investors to make that a reality.
Now,
Tim, that seems crazy.
Yeah, a little crazy.
I'm gonna jump in here and say, when we talk to mobile devs these days, mostly what we hear is about how challenging it is to get discovered on mobile marketplaces, and even once you get a following, no matter how big or niche, the challenge of continuing to acquire new users. And in a lot of ways, I feel like we're starting to see a renaissance for publishers, for mobile devs and for indie devs. But you're going the other way. So how do you deal with those challenges of trying to get your game out in front of more people and stuff, while also trying to iterate on it and improve upon it and maintain it?
Sure. So honestly, you're not the first one to say that we're mental. I did a practice run of the talk yesterday to some of the group on this program that I'm part of, and they were just like, "You're nuts! That's such a crazy risk to take when you are working with a really established publisher." And it was a big risk, but it was very much a calculated one. And I think it was actually a response more to how difficult, we saw that marketing and, that live operations stuff was becoming, and how it was going to be more and more important for us to build a brand that would retain customers for a long time, because the cost of acquisition is so high, right? If your retention and your monetization isn't high enough, and you're not moving players through your portfolio efficiently, and really taking care of them through all of the the little things like the subtleties of authentication and email marketing and just good community management. If you're not taking as good a care and putting as much craft into those components of your business, then you're going to fail. And so I think it was actually, even though it seems like a crazy risk, it was a direct response to how difficult and crowded the mobile space is becoming.
Right on.
Real quick, just want to give a shout out to Nicholas Wagner and Rhetoric, who've joined us in the chat. Rudism is now auto-hosting us, or is hosting us, so thank you, Rudism, for sharing Tim's message about mobile games to the world. As a reminder for everyone watching, if you have questions for Tim about publishing mobile games, about surviving the mobile market, drop them in the chat and we will ask them. And Tim, I just wanted to add one layer for our audience about all that hard work you just described. You're doing this from around the world, aren't you? Like last time I've talked to you now, basically on three separate countries: California, Mexico, and where are you now?
I am now in Bogota, Colombia. Of all places.
Yeah. How are you doing this from around the world? How are you doing this worldwide development? I only know Rami Ismail and Adriel. Rami Ismail is the only one I can talk who I think travels as much as they develop. Yeah,
sure. So I've been pretty used to traveling and working remotely over the last few years because, as I said, our publisher DNA was based in San Francisco. So I would spend a couple of weeks there every few months, and so I was pretty comfortable with moving around. And our company has been pretty comfortable with remote workers since the outset. We have artists and developers, producers. Spread as far and wide as Sweden, England, further up north in New Zealand and America. So we're pretty comfortable with remote working. And I'd been working with Runaway for 7 years, mm-hmm. and I hadn't really done a lot outside of my travel for work, a lot of travel to the more sort of remote corners of the world. And I thought that it was sort of over time for me to do that. But at the same time, I was very much enjoying the work that I was doing at Runaway, and we had some very exciting projects coming up. So I didn't want to sort of totally drop everything and just go and become a backpacker. So this program came up, which I'm now on, called Remote Year. And what it is it's a collection of 80 working professionals who are performing their roles for their companies, or maybe some of them are entrepreneurs. Remotely from 12 different cities across 12 different months. So it's a nice balance of being able to continue to be involved with your company back home and continue to work for them. But in your spare time, obviously, you walk out the door and you're in Bogota or Buenos Aires or Prague or Chiang Mai or whatever. So 12 months, 12 cities, three continents. And I'm 6 or 7 weeks into that process now. And very, very much enjoying it. It's full on, but a lot of fun.
Alex, do you think I could run this Twitch stream if I joined that program? Do you think we could still do this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure you can run a Twitch stream from anywhere, right? That's the magic of the internet. And actually, our parent company, runs a very similar program. We are owned by UBM Americas, which also owns GDC. So I'll just get that out of the way.
Disclosure.
We're all just one big family. And I think about this sometimes too, but I wonder what I would miss. Tim, what do you miss the most? I know you're early on in your year, but mm-hmm. What do you miss the most that you didn't expect you would miss about working out of an office more than a month at a time?
A good chair.
Yeah.
It's funny how I started to appreciate it. It was about a month in, or about 5 or 6 weeks in. It was just the little comforts of home and the little comforts of the office that you do start to miss, like having like a dependable chair and desk that is going to be set up in exactly the way that you like it. Even like the same thing with home, like knowing that everything's going to be exactly the way you left it, or just little creature comforts. I think have been the things that have been kind of tough getting used to, but I've kind of adapted. And so I've just ended up like finding my own little spot in the workplace and sort of like just making sure that I always nab that one particular spot so that I can kind of depend on being there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The other thing that I didn't expect that I would miss as much is just again, a creature comforts thing, but little treats from home. Like having like a dependable, like if you've got a really favorite like peanut butter, for example, I've got like a box coming over from New Zealand with like my favorite peanut butter and some chocolate and things, and it's just those little things that kind of just remind you of home and give you a little bit of stability and little consistency when everything else around you is just craziness and changing constantly. So that's one of the main tips I was going to sort of get back to when I sort of write up my reflections on what I would do differently at the start. It's like, don't be afraid of like, just being a bit of a dork and bringing along some of those things that just make you feel like you're at home, whether it's peanut butter or a teddy bear or your own bedding or, whatever it is that does it for you, some little thing to anchor you is really useful.
Buzzrick in the chat also agreed that New Zealand chocolate was probably the thing that you would probably miss traveling around the world. I've heard things about New Zealand chocolate. My friend Chris, who's up in Seattle, who used to do games writing, he's talked about New Zealand chocolate. And Rudism says that you should apparently be missing them. I don't know. I guess Rudism is someone you know in real life. And quick shout out to Game Too Late for also hosting this chat. Thank you for doing that.
Cool. And you should know, Rudism is one of the designers and programmers on our team back home at Runaway, and he sort of moonlights as a semi-pro Twitch streamer who plays Overwatch with all these ridiculous contraptions.
Right on. Wait. Oh, wait. Is he did he do the banana one?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Wait, we're being oh my God, Rudism. That's awesome. Thanks for joining us. Yeah.
He's a great time. And also got to level 100 in World of Warcraft using just dance pads.
Hold on.
That is. Yeah. No, that is.
We're stopping the stream. Rudism. We're bringing you it. No, it's fine.
Appreciate that.
We're gonna do a live cross to Dunedin, New Zealand, where Rudism is gonna join on the stream as well.
Yeah. We'll talk to him later. Actually, seriously, Rudism. We want to chat with you about that later on, developing and doing the banana controller. But back to your GDC, we are here to talk about your GDC talk. Just not to take away your thunder. What Alex has had a great question the last few times you've done this, which is what makes you want to talk about these kind of biz topics at GDC? What makes you want to share this kind of knowledge?
I'd aspired to talk at GDC for years, like since I first went. GDC has a really special place in my heart. I've been going for 12 years. The first year I went, I won the IGDA, or one of the IGDA scholarships to go, and I will never forget watching Warren Spector and Doug Church on stage in San Jose, tear each other's games apart when they were talking about Deus Ex and Thief at the time, and tried to simulate a day in the life of the office at Ironstorm, where they would sort of have these critiques. And that was the moment I decided that I wanted to be a game designer, and it was just such a special year. And I thought, I always thought it would be great to be able to give back to that community, and to be able to share some of the things that we've learned along the way. So it's an honor and a privilege to for us to have learned enough and to have the opportunity to share that back with other developers.
Yeah.
Very awesome. I am just going to share a link to that talk because it's one of my favorite talks at GDC. So there it is in the chat for anybody.
I remember at the time, I was just like, my jaw was just I had to sort of close it because I was just so blown away and just the dialogue between the two of them, these two like just outstandingly clever
Was it like
design.
was it sort of like watching dueling pianists? Like
Yeah.
which is like a kind of a stupid metaphor, but also just like watching like I don't know, it's like seeing people just trying to one up each other on stage like that.
Yeah, well, the coolest thing about it, and I think this set the tone for, a lot of what we've tried to do as a design group at Runaway, was that, like they were tearing each other to pieces, but in a way that never felt that it was about ego. It never felt that it was about trying to be the better designer. Felt like the dialogue was about trying to make each other's games better.
Yeah.
And I just think like that's some of the most satisfying design, talks or experiences and critiques that we've had, is being with that group where you can trust people to bring forward an honest critique of your design and do it without ego and do it towards the betterment of the product as a whole.
How do you feel in your own work is the best way that developers can think about giving that kind of playing hardball with feedback without making it personal? Because that's a big, that's a big psychological challenge. Criticism of your work can feel so personal, and it's more than just growing thick skin. It's kind of about finding a way to give and take with that.
No, for sure. And I think, the most important thing is just rapport, with the team that you have, is trusting the people around you to provide that critique with no particular agenda. And that's just something which you build over time. Assembling the right team, the right people that are going to click together into a cohesive unit is probably the most important aspect of studio management and game development as a whole. And often that's it's never just a matter of finding the best programmers and the best artists and just throwing them in a room together. It's thinking about what is the particular culture that you want to build and being very careful about the people that you add into that and getting the mix right.
I am very curious to know about how you got started with Runaway. So people watching know that we speak at GDC about becoming a self-publishing studio, but Runaway's been around for 6 or 7 years, right? Since 2010. And you guys have a very approachable and friendly aesthetic. Like all the games are about taking care of animals. It's very it's very naturey. It's very charming. That's not something we see very often. Most notable mobile games are about gems or collecting candies or something else like that, or blowing stuff up. So I want to know, where did that come from, and how have you managed to keep it going for over 6 years now?
Okay, so Runaway started as the games unit of a natural history television production company. So that company was called NHNZ, and they make about 60 hours of television for the likes of Discovery Channel, National Geographic, A&E networks. So they have a long history, 35 years plus, of making film about the natural world. And so the idea behind Runaway was they wanted to see whether they could expand their market reach from just making films about the natural world into making games about the natural world. And so they brought me in as a consultant initially to look at their company, look at the games industry, and see if there was a fit. And I wrote a business plan for them, which outlined the funding of a small team and to build some initial prototype games and just see whether there was anything to that idea. The result of that was, they funded the initial team for a year. We made some games on Facebook. They got a really good reception that led to us getting 2 contract jobs with National Geographic, and so through that we learned to make games on mobile, and all those sort of early developments led us to a point at which we were ready to pitch to DNA, the idea of Flutter. So that was about 5 years ago now, and that was when the company really sort of took off, as when we married that creative that we'd been building at the start, that idea of telling stories about the natural world through games with DNA's publishing and monetization expertise.
That's a solid run. What was it like working with National Geographic? It's just a personal curiosity.
It was great. Like their team were fantastic. It's really hard to sort of utilize like brands like that when they're quite far removed from from the gaming audience.
Yeah,
I think like it's pretty difficult. All of the different natural history brands, have had a go, multiple times at making games divisions or doing games partnerships. But none of them have really taken off. And I think the main issue with that is just the corporate structure in a lot of these for a lot of these brands, because you see this in the talk as well. All right, thank you. That's right. Cool. One of the main sort of lessons that we learned through our whole journey was like that things are never going to work the first time out of the gate, right? Succeeding as a game developer is about succeeding at failure. It's about having a crack at it. It almost certainly not working first time, taking on board the lessons and trying again. And within these much larger corporates, it's really hard to fund something that way. Games are very difficult. The games market is incredibly difficult in general, right? And you need to take a very iterative approach to both game design, development, and like the publishing side of things. And so unless you've got like the patience, really, to persevere with those failures over a number of years until things work, then you're just not going to survive. And so some of these big brands have had, and this isn't just in nature. This is like television brands just in general. I've had a lot of challenges because they'll fund the project, and then when it doesn't go right, they'll disband the whole team and kind of like throw it out the window.
Yeah.
And then they lose all of the learnings that they've made from those failures, and then they have to start from scratch again. And then like a couple of years later, another executive will come along and be like, wait, why aren't we doing games? We should be doing games. Games are huge. Let's do games.
Yep.
And then they'll sign off on a year or 6 months or whatever for one team, and then they'll build up, and then they'll start to get some momentum, but they won't have made money yet, and so they'll be killed again, and it's just like this never-ending cycle. So I think the key difference, with the way that we were set up is that we had that guiding vision right from the start that we wanted to make a brand and a portfolio of games that had that consistent theme. And despite the early failures, our parent company persisted and continued to back us, and we actually got the chance to stick around long enough to actually have one of those swings connect and start making money.
So that begs the question, since you were able to stick around long enough to iterate and learn from your mistakes, what mistakes did you make, and what have you learned from them?
Where do I start?
Sure, yeah.
Gosh, many. I think
if you had to give one piece of advice to other mobile game devs out there, what would it be?
One piece of advice. I think the most important thing is something I've kind of already touched on, and that's having a brand that stands for something. Thinking about not just each individual game, but thinking about what your brand and your overall portfolio is going to mean to your customers. Because again, as we touched on before, the cost of acquisition, whether you're paying for marketing or whether you're actually going out there and attending conferences and trying to win over fans, right, is just so high. Yeah. That, you're almost certainly not going to return that investment on one game. And then that's true whether that's like a premium game or a free-to-play game or whatever. You need to bring in people and keep them around for the long term. So whether your niche and your brand speciality is nature games, or whether it's dungeon crawlers, or dating sims or whatever it is, having a consistent message and having a consistent theme, so that when you bring in new players, there's a potential to turn them into lifelong fans, is probably the most crucial thing in being a publisher for sure, but I would even say in being even a developer at the moment.
It seems like. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm back. Sorry. I was going to ask, how do you sort of feel about the ability of, no matter, like I feel like an interesting conundrum that the mobile marketplaces run into is that premium games have to be incredibly niche in order to succeed, versus free to play have the ability to go broader, but then find themselves somewhat more restricted on what kinds of games they present themselves as. How do you sort of feel that working in the free to play space has like given you an opportunity to push your skills as a developer, even while you're trying to wage that balance you just talked about making sure you can build something that keeps bringing people in and builds fans forever?
Yeah, it's quite a hard balance to strike, because if you make yourself too niche, then you're kind of limiting the total market size.
Yeah.
That you can achieve for the product. So it has to be a very careful balance. I mean, our theory at the start of Runaway was that there is a television industry out there with I'm not sure exactly how much. I think it's like 180 or something $billion, a couple of $100 billion, a lot of money, right? And within that market, you have a number of different channels that have managed to become essentially empires, based on the niche of a connection to nature. So the theory was that as games get bigger and they get to around the same size as the television industry, or bigger than the movie industry, that niche interest will still will persist. There'll still be people, right, that have maybe not watching television as much, and they're spending that time now playing games. And within that market, there's still a number of people that wants to learn about the natural world while they're entertained. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was kind of part of the theory that went into making sure that it was actually a viable niche for us. And another way of doing it is just following, scratching your own itch, and following a user base or a theme or a genre that you've been passionate about for a long time, and through personal experience have seen a community develop, and you understand how that community works and why it cares about that particular niche, and are able to use that history and knowledge to reach out to more players like that.
Go ahead, sorry. I'm sorry. I do have a follow-up question on that. How did you sort of grapple with were you ever able to capitalize on the fact that you could go to these TV companies and say, people are looking at their phones while they're watching your TV? Is there any way, are we able to make something that effectively people can play while they're watching your show? How did that go? How did that go over? Because I know TV, the second you tell TV people, hey, people are looking away from your screen, the knives come out and they start, and the walls drop down, and it's bloodbath.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so yeah, we did, absolutely. We pitched a number of things like that, and just getting those projects over the line is just really, really tough. Despite all the connections that we had through our parent company, we spent so much time, months and months and months and months crafting pitches and traveling to Washington DC and doing all those sorts of things, and there wasn't a lot of appetite for that particular type of content. The idea sounds great. What would usually happen is that you would come up with a concept, you would pitch it to a junior executive. They would be like, this makes so much sense, this is forward thinking, and then it would go up chain of command and get and not go ahead in favor of some more traditional marketing. So again, it's just really big corporations moving very, very, very slowly. And the other problem is, again, something that I've already mentioned, which is that those sorts of projects are very difficult. They have a lot of logistical issues, and they have existed totally. There have been second screen experiences, and there are a number of second screen experiences, out there for National Geographic and Discovery Channel at the moment. But again, that same problem that a small team's given the opportunity to do it once, it doesn't go perfectly, they just band it and walk away from it and treat it as a failure, and okay, that thing's not for us, and then come back to it in a couple of years.
Yeah. Alex, I will let you ask your question in a moment. But Rhetoric in the chat would like to know how long should they start thinking about marketing their brand and their game before launch?
I think it comes before you even start working on your first game, right?
Well, we'll not necessarily first game. We'll say the game you're planning to like. We don't know. I don't know. Sorry, Rhetoric. I don't know you personally. I don't know how many games you've put out, but think just like they start working on a new game. Let's assume it's a a developer of 1 or 2 games at least. And how would you add to that question? Thinking about that person.
For us, the brand almost came for Runaway. The brand almost came before any of the games.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's impossible to do if you've already started putting things out. But we put together the design of the company and the brand with this portfolio approach right from day one. With the idea that it would have this particular niche focus on games inspired by the natural world. And another thing we do as part of our design process, and we're doing right now for the brand new projects that we're working on, is just thinking about who your target demographic is and actually visualizing that person as a real individual. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of developers actually get a photo of Jane. Jane's my target player. And they put Jane up on the wall and they talk about Jane and all the things that Jane's into. And this is part of the design process, but it's also part of the marketing process because you're thinking really specifically about who is going to want to play your game. Mm-hmm. And that's crucial, to obviously the design, but also the marketing outreach and understanding, where that type of person hangs out and what's going to be important, to those types of people when you're trying to, message your game to them. So, as early as possible, really. I take the view that, publishing, marketing, and design are not different camps.
Yeah.
And this is part of why we went into self-publishing, is because there's traditionally been this whole tension between game development and game marketing, and the idea is that game development and design is this pure art form, that cannot be interfered with by the publisher, and needs to just have total creative freedom to thrive. And then when it's done, it'll be done when it's done, and then you pass it on to the marketing. I suppose we have to do the marketing now and give it to those guys. Our view is that those things are totally intertwined, and especially that becomes especially true when you're doing a game that requires live operations and iteration and running events and all that sort of stuff. Because when you launch the game, that's the start of development. And then you're in this iterative loop, where you're interfacing with your audience and learning what's working with your marketing channels, and all that stuff is feeding back into your design process and the priority of your designers and your programmers and things. And so that's why we aspire to have all those different roles. We're from quality assurance to customer support to community, sitting right alongside the development team, and them being just as equal and important to our whole process as any programmer or artist.
That makes a lot of sense. I wanted to jump back just a second. We were talking about, the pros and cons of having a niche and knowing you have a niche audience. You build something that they can come back to for games that they can expect. In this case, games about nature. It's about learning about nature. Mm-hmm. To have worked on something like that, to have started something like that 6-7 years ago, must require quite a bit of passion. Where does your passion for making games about nature, and passion, I assume, for nature itself, come from?
Mm-hmm. I'll be totally honest with you in that.
Do it.
I am passionate about games and business and the interaction between the two. And nature was an interest of mine, but it's not something that I grew up knowing that I wanted to make nature games. I grew up knowing that I wanted to make games, and I became fascinated with live operations and publishing side of things. And the natural history element of it was a market opportunity that presented itself because of the collaboration with our parent company. And when we looked at it, it's something which was like, well, it makes so much sense. Like no one's doing that. Like there's no National Geographic of games, and it just made so much sense. And the passion for telling those stories and keeping that brand consistent was something which was sort of grown and learnt over the course of years and working within that parent company and understanding more about the types of people that are into those types of games. Because getting the sort of feedback we did from the players and seeing these sort of stories about how players have not just found the games like meditative or calming or relaxing or just fun, but they've also sort of enriched their lives by learning more about the natural world and its plight. That was just like incredibly gratifying, and so I suppose like that connection, that appreciation, like for that connection between games and nature was something which sort of just like slowly built over time.
Sure. But do you feel constrained by that at all these years later? I mean, as you mentioned earlier, like it can be tricky to try and make a dungeon crawler or a roguelike that really celebrates nature.
Yeah.
Like you feel like your career has been like tied down or is like limited by picking this really remarkable focus?
Yes, totally. I think it's a double-edged sword, right? Because on one hand, it's an incredibly easy and fun story to tell. It's a cohesive message and vision. Yeah. But on the flip side, it also means that like a roguelike isn't going to fit into our portfolio, or a tactics game or whatever, Mm-hmm. And so that's a compromise that we've had to make, and a compromise which I think has been worth making. But as this sort of portfolio stabilizes, we are looking at ways that we can broaden our demographic reach as well, because a lot of what we've learned about live operations and just general mobile game design and development could be applied to many different other genres. And so as our team expands as well, and we're looking for new concepts, we're not totally adverse to the idea of making games outside of that niche focus. What we'd probably do is end up making a new brand.
Yeah.
Instead, and we'd probably want to try, if we were going to create a new brand, we'd want to make sure that there were like multiple products that we could release into that over the years, in the same way that we have with Runaway.
Yeah, something I always often wonder about. Like so many devs now, when they look at the markets today, they go, "Well, I should target a niche. I should target my audience, make a game for a certain kind of person, because there's no way I'll be able to hit mass appeal at this point." And that can be very successful, but then at some point, if you want to grow beyond that and have a career that lasts more than a few years, like you need to sort of start looking at other things. And I think a lot of devs struggle with that part of career development in the game industry. But
yeah, I mean, again, it's another double-edged sword, right? Because like in one respect, like you need to keep things fresh, like to keep yourself from going nuts. But at the same time, you need to have enough dedication to that particular niche to get to the point at which you actually make it successful. Like it takes many years of focusing in on a particular craft or particular type of game to get good enough at it that your game is going to be received well and become successful. So you've got to kind of have the staying power to get over that line, and pick a niche that you're going to be okay staying with for that long.
So I had a question about the niche a little bit, and this is I'm sorry that we're sort of ping-ponging you back and forth between business questions and design questions, but
it's all the same.
Right, like you just said, it's all the same. The thing I wanted to ask about, because you started off, you're not with National Geographic anymore, but you are still, Runaway is still a company doing nature-focused games. How do you? I think you said you're still sort of inspired by there's no National Geographic for games, and so there's a niche for games that explore the natural world. I think one of the coolest assets that National Geographic has relied on in recent years is as HD technology has improved, they're still like the number one source for like the best footage of nature, and that's like just a nice thing to put on the background. When you go to like a dentist's office or something.
Right.
Like only like the BBC with the Planet Earth series is really like.
I was gonna say, don't be crapping on Planet Earth.
I am not crapping on Planet Earth, but just like the point is, part of the appeal of nature content is this high fidelity like presentation of it, but as an indie I guess indie's arguable, but like you're an independent developer, you're a mobile developer, you don't always have that option on hand. How do you approach making games about the natural world when you sort of don't have the asset of, even like, it would take so much time and money to make like a digital recreation of the natural world?
Yeah, well, I think that's one aspect of what makes nature, fascinating, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, the pretty pictures and the high def renderings. But I don't know. I think it's selling the focus short. Like, just to leave it at that. One thing that we found, like, with our the games that people love like to do, obviously, is like customize their environment, right?
Yeah.
So learn about the different things for all of them to be actual real corals, real flowers, real butterflies, all those sorts of things. But like for them to own them and nurture them through that life cycle, and it's the interaction which makes games special, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like you should always sacrifice fidelity, like visual fidelity, for like range of interaction, and that's something which we are. So we're just starting a VR project now,
mm-hmm.
which is huge. Yeah, really exciting. Obviously, myriad challenges await us there as well. But it's the same there. Like it's really easy, right, to throw a VR camera into a rainforest and just capture some footage,
mm-hmm.
but it's just wallpaper. Like it's just like, I don't know if you guys have played many of those like the virtual tourism things.
Yeah.
It's like fine.
Yeah.
For like 2 or 3 minutes, it's just like, cool, okay, I get it, whatever. But as soon like where VR comes alive is when you can reach out and you can change the environment. And like that's really special, and that's like that makes the whole experience so much more immersive and convincing and believable, and it makes it feel alive, and like you actually have the power to manipulate this environment and be part of it. I think the same goes for mobile games and things. Like to make a compelling nature game, it doesn't need to be photorealistic. It just needs to be true to the environment and the creatures that you're representing, and give the player as much freedom as possible to interact with those creatures in that environment and make it their own.
That's that gives me a lot to think about. I like as you described, like interaction and systems. And letting players like experiment with their own world. I thought of a myriad of different game design ideas popped into my head for how people can explore nature through game design. Maybe there's an article. Maybe there's an article in that somewhere, or a Twitch stream. Yeah. Alex, what's your next question?
I had a question earlier that I hate to make this a little more personal, but I think the best stories come from the people who make the games, not the games themselves. And I want to know, we talked about, how important it is to sort of get out of a niche so you keep yourself from going crazy, right? And I want to know how you keep yourself from going crazy while making games, because I know it can drive a lot of people a little nuts.
Running, a lot of running. Like side projects, things like that you do just for the fun of it. I'm a runner and a triathlete. I'm doing running the Boston Marathon in 8 weeks.
Nice.
And which I'm really excited about. So that's a nice little distraction.
Mm-hmm.
It's that's honestly what I think has sort of saved me over the last 7 years. So I actually started running when I started Runaway. The names aren't connected. It was happenstance. But just having something which was totally in your control. So because the games industry is just a crazy, like roller coaster ride. And so much of our success depends on being in the right place at the right time, and so often, you feel like you're you put your best foot forward, but you don't get like the just reward, for that effort. And like that's like, the rule, not the exception, and I mean, this is true for most creative work. But I think it's pretty important to have some like, some foundational thing that you can come back to, some like dependable thing. And like for some people, it's like playing World of Warcraft. For some people, it's going for walks in nature. For me, it's running. For other people, it's making knives. Like whatever it is. Like it's some craft thing which is like totally in your control. And you can just follow a training regimen and reach a goal for yourself. And that's always going to be there for you, no matter what madness happens in your sort of professional life. So I'd say find a hobby.
Some people make controllers out of bananas and play Overwatch with them.
But that's so interesting because, like, you mentioned, you want something that you can sort of make, you can progress towards, and then no matter how it turns out, like, there won't be an external judgment. Like in the games industry, you can make a game. You can spend 2 years making a game, put your heart and soul into it. It can even be a good game, and then it just gets nothing. And I agree with you that it's a good idea to have something else outside of that. I think the key is like having something that is not something that's creative but not commercial. So like I make stained glass, which is a really nerdy, stupid thing to do.
No, right on.
And like that is something that, if I was going to show those projects to somebody or try to sell them, there would be a weight like attached to the work. But since it's just a creative output, at the end of it, you're done and you have something, and nothing could mess with it. Like it's just you, and that can be so satisfying and fulfilling and recharging in a way. I think a lot of devs make not the mistake, but choose to make games in their free time, like their own indie projects or whatever, and that can be so freighted with like judgment that it like doubly drains you rather than recharging you.
Yeah, totally.
Sorry.
This great article from Derek Sivers. So I'll just drop in really quickly.
Go for it.
That and where he explains, like the key to happiness in life is actually separating your work from your art.
Yeah.
So he said like all the happiest people he's seen in his life, have been the people that have their job, like their day job, and they're just really good at it, and like they don't hold all of like their creative ambitions on it. They just turn up, they do their job, they get paid well, they do it well, and then they go home, and then they can moonlight, they can do their music or their comic books or their stained glass or whatever, and then that's like just totally free from any commercial intention. Like they just like release it out into the world, and it doesn't mean you can't charge for it, but it means that you don't like rely on it to live.
Right. Yeah. It's not. There's no extra baggage on it.
Yeah. Because it's actually really gratifying. It's really important and gratifying as well. Like to have that day job where like you're getting paid well and getting paid consistently to do good work that's valued by people, right? Often you do have to make compromises on what that like that work is. It's not like your perfect artistic vision every day, but like then if that enables you in your free time to be able to go and pursue those other like artistic pursuits, then awesome.
Has your time spent running changed the way you work, changed the way you make games?
I think it's changed the way that I work in general, and that like I break up like large tasks into small like little things, and it's just made me much less I think reactive and more consistent. Just because like to run a marathon, you need to break down this enormous task, right, into little chunks of training that you do every day, like over the course of 3 months. And so I think that's the main thing it's taught me is like being able to approach Herculean tasks like that just one day at a time.
Nice.
We have a question from the chat from Gabriel Melian. And Gabriel would like to know, what would you recommend to someone who is just starting, wants to work in the game industry, that comes. There's a multiple choice part of this question. Should they keep making games and self-publish, or try to get professional experience working for an established studio first? But I think just the what I'll throw to you, Tim, is you can answer the multiple choice part. But what would you recommend to someone who just is starting and wants to be part of the game industry?
The second one for sure. I would definitely go and get some experience in a professional development house. The reason being, if I'd made time again, that's the way I would have done it. We actually started our first company right out of college, and we learnt a lot, along the way. And as I've sort of said a number of times, you learn so much from your failures, and I'm hugely grateful for all of those challenges and that time that we had. But I do think that, looking at a number of other developers and a number of other indies as well, I would say more often than not, success has come to those that have gone and immersed themselves in a really highly regarded professional development environment. Learned what they like about how that works, what they would like to change, and just worked on their craft. They've had the opportunity to just focus on their craft, and that actually links back to something which I think we did really right with the formation of Runaway. By forming Runaway within a larger organization and sort of being shielded by a lot of the entrepreneurial issues that plagued us in our first company, we were able to just focus on crafting good games, and that led us ultimately to the point at which we made something good enough that it would it was a viable business. But without that support, we would have had many other pressures, the financial and administrative pressures that would have distracted away from us from being able to just craft a good game, and we might not have been successful. So by putting yourself in an organization where you're going to be given the support to just focus on becoming a good programmer or a good artist or whatever, you're going to learn a lot along the way, and you're going to be sheltered from a lot of those those issues which come along when you become a self-publisher.
Yeah, right on. We're coming up on we're going to be past the 1 hour mark here in a few minutes. So I just want to remind our dear, wonderful viewers to, if they have any questions for Tim, get them in the chat and we will throw them to you. Tim, I guess we forgot to mention, where and when will people be able to find your talk at GDC?
It is at 2:10 on Tuesday afternoon in West Hall as part of the Mobile Summit.
Sweet.
And I believe it's room 2016.
And last year. Real quick, and if for anyone who needs more information on the talk, there is a button down below. Just kind of to close out, but it seems we have some people in the chat who are young game makers. What would you say to them if they're heading for GDC in general? What would you sort of say? What's the advice that you would give them for going to GDC? Okay,
go to the inspiring talks in real life. You're going to have 10 different talks to choose from, pretty much, every time slot, and that's kind of bewildering. You should definitely go to the ones that are by your heroes. The panels, the things that are going to be exciting to be at in real life. Because the more sterile talks, the more clinical ones, like my event talks in the last couple of years, they're going to be just as fun to see or just as useful to see on the Vault, right? So take advantage of the fact that you're there in the flesh. Go and get psyched up about game development. GDC is one of the most exciting exciting weeks of the year. It's one of my favorites.
It can feel
I always go away from it, with my passion for the industry totally rejuvenated, and I'm really excited. We've got 8 people from Runaway going this year, and 2 of us are speaking. I'm speaking at 2:10 on Tuesday, and our community manager Lisa is speaking at the Community Management Summit later on that afternoon. So it's going to be a very, I think, sort of proud and exciting moment for us having such a big representation there. So go and have fun, meet people, play games, crash parties, have a blast.
Yeah. Right on. I think we're going to start wrapping things up a little early, just because, unless Alex, you have a last question?
Well, I mean, Yeah, always. We could talk for hours. Tim, I want to know, where else are you going this year after Mexico City and GDC?
Okay, so I get after GDC, I'm coming back to Colombia to Medellin, and then off to Lima, Peru, and then I'm going to Boston to run the marathon. Then Palm Springs for the Coachella Music Festival, and then Cordoba, Argentina, Buenos Aires, Argentina. Then we're over to Europe. We're going to Prague, then Belgrade, then Valencia, and then over to Asia. So we're going to Kuala Lumpur, Chiang Mai, and Phnom Penh, I think. I always mess up the Asian destinations, but
I want to read the blog on Gamasutra about game dev at Coachella. All right. In that case, unless chat, you have any questions, it's time to wrap things up. Thank you all once again for you've wasted another perfectly good hour here with the Gamasutra team and our lovely guest Tim Nixon. If you want to know more about Tim's talk at GDC, like I said before, scroll down. There is a button, and you click that button, and you'll get to know more about Tim's talk. If you enjoyed this talk with Tim, Tim, where can they find you, and where can they find Runaway Games?
You can find Runaway at runawayplay.com. So that's our website, and that should have the link over to all of our community pages on Facebook and the like. On Twitter, you can find me at Nixon Tim. And on Medium, I'm running a blog about my adventures around the world. Again, it's medium.com/NixonTim. So
right on.
Jump on there. And if you've got questions, I'm always happy to ask them. And if you do come along to the talk at GDC, then just come and hit me up afterwards. And happy to chat to people there as well.
Yeah, right on. And as for us, we would like to point out that we would like to ask if you enjoyed talking to Tim, we would love to have you subscribe to our channel, because we're going to have so many great more interviews with people throughout the year. Next week, we are going to be working with the One Life Left people to interview a lot of great people at GDC. So you're going to get some great on-the-floor GDC interviews with our friends at One Life Left. And there's a lot of expectation writing on that, so hopefully it goes well, but we hope to talk to you all next week about that. So if you could please subscribe. Just a reminder again, as we said earlier, Gamasutra and GDC are sibling organizations under UBM Americas. And we'll be back on Friday. We sadly don't have an interview on Friday because we just lost it, but we're going to find something cool to play and just hang out and have a nice pre-GDC chill session. That's the plan right now.
It's okay. I'll interview you. We'll figure something out.
Interview me? Moi?
Yeah.
Quoi? Yeah. All right. Thank you all for joining, everyone. This has been fun.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Jim, you were great. Thank you.